The most developed countries claim that they have achieved economic prosperity thanks to the free market. This message is constantly repeated as a universal lesson in economic development for the rest of the world. In this story, the market is presented as a neutral force that rewards work, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Success is portrayed as the result of discipline, competition, and the complete absence of state interference. State interference in the economy is described as an obstacle to natural and healthy economic development. This narrative sounds simple, logical, and easily acceptable to a wide audience around the world. Therefore, it is often accepted for granted, without any deeper critical examination. The story of the free market becomes an integral part of general economic education. It is constantly repeated in textbooks, the media, and international economic institutions. Over time, this story grows into a dogma that is very rarely questioned. However, the practice of developed countries does not correspond to the image they themselves promote to others. Their markets are tastefully interwoven with rules, regulations, and institutional constraints. Economic relations are not left to chance, but are carefully guided by political decisions. The free market they describe does not exist in their own economies either. The state plays a permanent, active, and key role in regulating the most important sectors. There are clear and precise rules about who is allowed to do business and under what conditions. Many industries are protected from domestic and foreign competition. Financial systems operate under strong and continuous supervision by state institutions. These facts are rarely emphasized when others talk about market freedom. In this way, a serious gap is created between the official narrative and actual practice. The claim about invisible market forces conceals the real role of the state in the economy. It creates the impression that the economic system regulates itself without any human intervention. In reality, laws directly and daily shape market relations. Standards determine how goods are produced, distributed, and who is allowed to sell them. Subsidies help certain sectors survive or gain a market advantage. All of these measures have concrete, measurable, and predictable effects on market outcomes. These rules are neither neutral nor equally beneficial to all market participants. They benefit those who already have capital, influence, and political power the most. The invisible hand serves as a metaphor for concealing these mechanisms of power. In this way, political decisions are presented as natural and inevitable processes. The key question is why one persistently insists on a picture that does not correspond to reality. The answer lies not in economic laws, but in the political interests of powerful actors. The illusion of the free market serves to justify the existing distribution of global power. It presents hierarchy as a natural order, not the result of historical decisions. If the order is presented as natural, then any discussion of justice ceases. Such a view excludes the possibility of responsibility for the consequences of the system. At the same time, it discourages attempts to change existing economic relations. The illusion of market neutrality reduces the space for political debate. Economic decisions are presented as technical necessity, not political choice. In this way, power is systematically excluded from democratic control. The free market functions as a geopolitical narrative, a non-universal economic law. Its primary purpose is to preserve the division between the center and the periphery. The center sets the rules of the global economy and determines the standards. The periphery is forced to conform to these rules without any choice. Development is presented as a matter of discipline, patience, and internal reform. The structural limitations of the global system are ignored or minimized. International institutions propagate this narrative as a generally accepted truth. Economic rules are transformed over time into moral demands. Inequality is thus explained as personal or national failure. In this way, geopolitics is disguised in neutral economic language. In such a system, those who are already well-positioned fare best. Initial advantage is not problematized, but is accepted as the normal state of affairs. Rich countries have developed infrastructure, capital, and stable institutions. They possess knowledge, technology, and networks that are not available to others. Market competition takes place on an uneven playing field. Despite this, results are interpreted as evidence of market fairness. Success is attributed to ability and effort, and failure to incompetence. Structural differences between countries are systematically ignored, In this way, existing inequality is further entrenched. The initial advantage over time becomes a permanent and difficult to achieve advantage. The developed countries of the Western Hemisphere have a clear interest in promoting this narrative. Their companies benefit the most from open global markets. Their capital moves freely and quickly across national borders. At the same time, the development of other countries remains limited by structural rules. Those countries retain control over key technologies and know-how. They shape the international rules of trade, finance, and investment. The free market narrative protects their economic and political dominance. It justifies existing power relations in the global economy. This makes it difficult for new serious competitors to appear. Global inequality stabilizes and reproduces itself over time. The same countries that promote the free market reserve the right to strong state intervention. They protect strategic industries when it is in their economic interest. Financial institutions are regularly bailed out by public funds in crises. Market rules apply strictly to other countries. For themselves, those same rules become flexible and adaptable. Such selectivity is rarely openly acknowledged in public debates. When peripheral countries intervene, it is presented as a violation of market rules. When the center intervenes, it is justified by stability and responsibility. Two different standards operate simultaneously in the global system. They directly reinforce the existing economic and political hierarchy. When peripheral countries fail, the blame is almost always placed on their weaknesses. They talk about bad institutions, culture, or wrong political choices. A lack of discipline, knowledge, or responsibility is often mentioned. The global economic system is never questioned. Structural constraints and unequal conditions are systematically ignored. Responsibility is being shifted from the system to the developing countries themselves. In this way, the illusion of a fair and neutral market is maintained. Failure is individualized and depoliticized. The system remains intact and unquestioned. Any deeper criticism is delegitimized in advance. The myth of the free market has a clear and long-term political function. He justifies existing global inequalities as natural phenomena. These inequalities are presented as inevitable. At the same time, the space for alternative development policies is limited. Any serious intervention is shown as an error or danger. Economic power turns into moral merit over time. Success is equated with virtue and ability. Failure is associated with a flaw or a lack of effort. In this way, the existing power is further legitimized. Inequality becomes the normal state. Freedom in this narrative does not mean equal opportunity for all participants. It means the freedom of capital to act without serious restrictions. The social and human costs are ignored. Workers bear the greatest risks of market changes. Local communities are falling apart without adequate protection. All these consequences are justified by market efficiency. Freedom becomes the privilege of the minority with capital. Most are left with no real choice. The market presents itself as an impartial judge, but a judge without responsibility for his decisions.